Welcome back, Daisy Cakes. Last year I read as many children's books as I did adult books, so I'd like to share with you my favorites. Why? Because I am Daisy Ex Machina, the drag queen detective who investigates all things speculative in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. As many of you know, I write children's books on the side, so why not send some love to some of my favorites that I read in 2024. These books are considered middle grade by publishers, which means ages 8 to 12, not necessarily middle school. First up is Field Guide to the Supernatural Universe by Alyson Noel. This is a spooky book, and there will be a lot of spooky books on this list, about a boy named Max who can see ghosts, and ghosts like to play pranks on him, so he is known as a town weirdo. All he wants is to be normal, so he tries to hide his gift and ignore the ghosts, but the ghosts still like to play pranks on him, and he's still seen as the weird little kid. When he spends the summer with his eccentric grandfather, whom his father has warned him about, things change. His grandfather lives in the town of Glimmerville, where people don't seem to mind ghosts, including kids Max's age who want to be his friend. Max realizes that his gift is inherited, and the strange house that his grandfather lives in is filled with all sorts of supernatural treasures. The rarest of all is a book called The Field Guide to the Supernatural Universe. Could the book cure Max of his ability to see ghosts? Or has Max found a new home here in Glimmerville? Disaster strikes when his grandfather's soul is trapped, and a mysterious enemy is after the field guide. On the spooky scale, this isn't all that spooky. It's more of an adventure than a horror novel, but it's a fun ride for kids who love Halloween. Dead Girl's Diary by K.R. Alexander is definitely a horror novel. This was my first time reading Alexander, but the covers of his books definitely are scary. Just look at some of them. Some spooky books like to have a little bit of humor to lighten the mood. Not Dead Girl's Diary. It's about a girl named Kara who has always had nightmares or visions, but when she receives a mysterious diary, it gets even worse. What's even more strange is that nobody but Kara can read the diary. Everyone else just sees gibberish. But the diary leads Kara to a town where residents seem just a little bit off, like they're holding some type of terrible secret. I love this book. I was surprised at how well it was written on a prose level. I don't know why I was surprised, but it's really well written. And it is a true horror novel, reminding me of the old Twilight Zone series. I immediately picked up another Alexander book, The Fear Zone, and it was just as good. These are quick reads, true horror stories that are a step up from Goosebumps on the intensity scale. Another book I read, which sounds like a horror novel, is A Tale Dark and Grim by Adam Gidwitz. This does not pull punches because it starts with the narrator telling readers that fairy tales were once awesome because they were so violent and bloody. So what happened to the Brothers Grimm style fairy tales? Well, let's get back to the basics with a retelling of Hansel and Gretel in the Kingdom of Grimm. There is lots of violence and blood in this story of a brother and sister who are the children of the king and queen of Grimm. They run away from their parents because they think their parents want to cut off their heads. The children travel through several other fairy tale reimaginings. Now, all the violence and blood are presented in a whimsical way rather than anything graphic or morbid. And it is obvious that it's trying to get a rise out of children, and children who read it know that someone is trying to get a rise out of them by all this whimsical gore. Everyone is in on the joke, and I think it makes the story morbidly cute, dare we say, Edward Gorey-esque. This is Adam Gidwitz's debut novel, which is the first in a series. It was also adapted into an animated miniseries on Netflix. We have to talk about the Millicent Quibb School of Etiquette for Young Ladies of Mad Science by Kate McKinnon. Yes, the Kate McKinnon, who I first saw on Logo TV years ago on the Big Gay Sketch Show. Of course, she went on to be one of the standout comedians on Saturday Night Live. But can she also write children's books? The answer is yes. Yes, she can. The story is about three girls who are adopted into a kind of a nasty family. The girls' names are Gertrude, Eugenia, and Dee Dee, and they are sent to a conventional etiquette school, or several of them, to learn manners, but they get kicked out because, one, they don't care about etiquette, and two, they run some morbid experiments. They then get a letter inviting them to yet another etiquette school. You guessed it, the Millicent Quibb School, which also is a front for a school of mad science. Kate McKinnon is a comedian, so it's no surprise that the story is funny. The voice is kind of reminiscent of Lemony Snicket. I wasn't as sympathetic to the sisters as I was to Lemony Snicket's Baudelaire children, who break your heart on every page, but I think that's intentional. It's a very strong debut. I didn't get the audiobook version, but I listened to a sample, and it's narrated by Kate McKinnon, of course, because she apparently is terrific at everything. The Lock-Eater by Zack Loran Clark is an otherworld fantasy about a girl named Melanie Gate, who is raised in an orphanage. She has a magical talent. She can unlock any lock. The orphanage is visited by a mechanical man who claims he is the servant of a sorceress who wants to adopt Melanie Gate and train her. Spoiler alert, the mechanical man is lying. This is a straight-up fantasy adventure with magic, lots of twists and turns, and some really great world building. It is very well written, maybe even aimed at advanced readers. All I know is that this is exactly the type of novel I would have loved when I was 11 or 12. Now, you know me, I almost always read speculative fiction, fantasy, science fiction, and horror, but once in a while I stray. I kept hearing about Erin Entrada Kelly, so I picked up her Newbery Medal-winning novel, Hello Universe. This is their first Newbery Medal-winning novel because she won another one this year, and now I get it. I get why she is such a beloved and often recommended writer. When I was a kid, I probably would not have picked this book up to read for pleasure because I was drawn to escapist-type stories, but if I was assigned to read it at school, I would have loved it. It's a contemporary story with 4 point-of-view characters. Their chapters cycle around each other. The story starts off where the kids really aren't closely connected, but then they get drawn closer and closer together as the story unfolds. There is Virgil, who is a shy and kind Filipino-American kid who will do anything and does do anything to protect his guinea pig, a deaf girl named Valencia Somerset, who is the embodiment of courage. My favorite is Kaori Tanaka, who is trying to start her own business as a psychic. Is she a psychic? She thinks she is, and at least has convinced her little sister. Then there is Chet, who is a bully who doesn't like people who are different. Chet throws Virgil's backpack down a well. The backpack has Virgil's guinea pig in it, so of course Virgil gets trapped down the well, and a deaf girl who can't hear Virgil's cries for help sees an open well that looks like an accident waiting to happen. You get the idea. It's one drama after another, piling on top of each other. But this is a kid's book. It's not a tragedy, so we know there's light at the end of the tunnel or light at the top of the well. This is one of those children's books that leaves even adults with deep feelings. Let's go in the opposite direction of an intense drama with a light-hearted comedy, A Dictionary of Scoundrels by Beth Lincoln. When a member of the Swift family is born, their name is randomly picked from a dictionary, and as they grow up, they seem to embody the word chosen for their name. Our main character is Shenanigan Swift. The matriarch of the Swift family is Shenanigan's arch-aunt Schadenfreude. Family reunions are a time when Aunt Schadenfreude makes the family rehearse her own funeral, but then someone kills Aunt Schadenfreude by shoving her down the stairs. And did we mention that one of the Swift ancestors, a man named Vile Swift, has hid a treasure in the family mansion? So we have a murder mystery and a treasure hunt. This is a lighthearted, hilarious, and has very modern sensibilities, like one of the Swifts is non-binary. I think A Dictionary of Scoundrels is destined to be a classic. One of my favorite children's series that I found this year is the Wilder Lore series by Amanda Foody, which starts with The Accidental Apprentice. This is an otherworld fantasy about Barclay Thorne, a boy who is apprenticed to a mushroom farmer. He lives in the town of Dullshire. There are a lot of rules in Dullshire, one of which is do not go into the woods because there are magical beasts that live in the woods. Magical beasts are fearsome creatures that have in the past attacked the town. And just as bad as magical beasts are lore keepers, humans who have bonded with these beasts. So Barclay is out picking mushrooms on the edge of the forest, not in the forest, when he meets a girl with a small dragon on her shoulder. She's a lore keeper, and one thing after another happens, and Barclay sees another beast, a terrible beast, and he tries to run away and accidentally bonds with the creature. Now, if Dullshire finds out, he'll be banished, but if he can get rid of the bond, everything will return to normal. At least that's what he hopes. But then he gets drawn further and further into the world of the lore keepers and the larger menace that lives within their world. I fell in love with the series. I immediately picked up the next 2 books, and there are more books planned. This is exactly the type of fantasy series I would have loved as a kid, and guess what? I love it as an adult too. You may have heard of this next book. It was first recommended to me on my live stream by Lynette. Impossible Creatures by Katherine Rundell. Rundell is a UK author who wasn't well known outside of Britain. That is, not until Impossible Creatures was released in the United States, where it immediately jumped to #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. It's a portal fantasy about a boy named Christopher who animals seem to automatically follow, who finds out his family guards the gate between our world and the world of magic. A girl named Mel comes through the gate with a baby griffin and is followed by a killer. Christopher and Mel escape through the portal and find themselves on a quest to maybe save all of magic. It has the type of writing that many adults can get into, even if they don't usually read children's books like The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. I thought the ending of Impossible Creatures was really fascinating because, for me anyway, it was unexpectedly bittersweet. Of course it's getting a sequel, and I'll be first in line to pick it up. Now, my last recommendation is for another series, and it was my absolute favorite in the children's category that I read in 2024. That is the Whispering Pine series by sisters Heidi Lang and Katie Bartkowski. I honestly didn't plan to read past the first book, Whispering Pines, but I ended up devouring all 4 of the novels. This is a children's horror that does not pull any punches. I've seen a lot of children's novels make comparison to Stranger Things because it's such a popular series on Netflix. I am here to tell you that Whispering Pines absolutely deserves the comparison. In fact, It's marketed as Stranger Things meets the X-Files. It is about a girl named Ray whose father disappeared, and her mother moves her and her sister across country to the town of Whispering Pines. The town has a creepy level dialed up to 11. There are school codes when kids vanish from school because apparently it's so common. There are creepy woods that hold mysteries. There's this large research facility at the edge of town. Ray's neighbor is a boy named Caden who comes from a family of psychics. After several kids go missing and then show up, not only with their minds gone, but also with their eyes gone. That's when the mystery starts, and every book has another layer of crazy twists and turns. The question often comes up in middle grade: how intense can you go in horror? Whispering Pines answers that. You can get extremely gruesome. Eyeballs are getting scooped out, tons of blood and gore, death, destruction, body horror. I love this series. It was a true horror story with a soupçon, just a tad of science fiction. Those are my recommendations for children's books that I read in 2024. Let me know what your recommendations are down in the comments, and while you're there, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Until we meet again, may all the books you read be blessed.